I'm here to talk about what makes Ludlow Food Centre a destination. I've been with the Food Centre for 4.5 years now, trying to make it a food destination, so I very much hope that we've kind of got there. Ludlow, as we've seen in the league tables, is pretty high up for a very, very small place. We are just outside the town, just 2 miles from the centre, and we are, of course, parallel to that Welsh motorway, the A49. It's a lifeline for us, certainly something that helps us with passing trade, but also it's interesting to see just how much business comes from that and how many people actually come to us as what we're considering today as a food destination. Shropshire as a county, in my personal opinion, is not actually that foodie a place. I live in Shrewsbury, for instance, which I don't consider to be a particularly foodie place. Ludlow, however, is quite the opposite. There are people who live there who literally, live, breathe food on a daily basis. As an area, Shropshire is, well, you can see it on the list there. It's the largest landlocked county in England. It is a bit out of the way. When you speak to people and you say to them, "Oh, I'm from Shropshire," they're never quite sure where you're from. I've had people say, "Oh, that's on the south coast." I've had people say that's in Scotland. So it's amazing that the county that I'm sure many people in this room would know exactly where it is and what's there. There are still quite a few people who have never been and have no idea where it is. Ludlow, however, if you mention the name, is pretty synonymous with food. It has been for quite a long time. There's been a lot of building blocks put in place over a very long period of time to actually make that happen. Some fantastic chefs have graced the town and still continue to produce great food there. We have a wonderful food festival, which I know you guys do too, but we like ours, and it was last weekend, and sadly we didn't get the weather, but it looks like you're going to. But one of the organisers is sitting right in front of me. Leslie is championed food in Ludlow for a long, long time, and certainly the committee who put together that food festival and have done for the last 20 years have really helped to put and keep Ludlow on the map. We hope at the Food Centre that we are trying to at least reinforce what we consider to be Ludlow as a foodie destination. We're lucky in the sense that there are others like us. We have a twice monthly farmers market, which is very, very well organised, extremely well attended from people all over the Midlands area. So really, it's a combination of things that are helping to make Ludlow as a town, but also help us as a business at the Food Centre become something of a food destination. To give you a bit of help with the history as to why on earth this giant building exists outside of Ludlow, we are on the Earl of Plymouth's Oakley Park estate. It is a pretty big landmass that lies to the north of the town. It has been in the family now since Clive of India purchased it in the 18th century. It features in the Domesday Book as a landmass with a name, and it is still run as a farm today. We have 6,500 of those acres that we are running as proper farming. The tractors were in my way today as I was trying to leave. Lord Windsor is the Earl's heir and is part of our family board. He and his 2 brothers make up our board of directors, and it was his decision back in 2003 that Ludlow should have a farm shop. That, I think, was quite a brave decision to make at that time. Certainly it was an even braver decision to do what he ended up doing. He did, with the help of a gentleman called Sandy Boyd, who some of you I hope will know and have met. He is a true pioneer in the farm shop world. He came from Chatsworth and came to Ludlow with an idea in his head. Sadly, he was actually shown this. Not really the most inspirational of buildings. That is a cow barn. Lord Windsor proudly pointed to this cow barn and said to Mr. Boyd, "Look, you will build me a farm shop in this barn, please. We believe it to be the best building we have." Not quite what Sandy was looking for when he went to go and meet Lord Windsor and thought he was going to get an exciting project to work on. So what really happened was a combination of thought processes where Sandy took a little look at the landscape, saw a rather nice field, which was adjacent to this barn, with a couple of rather nice oak trees in it. And he decided that rather than simply adopt the usual farm shop policy of let's take a knackered old building and make it into a shop, let's try and look at something that would be more sustainable. And certainly let's try and look at something that was going to be much more exciting from a visitor point of view. So instead of rehashing the same farm shop design, Sandy went away, thought that he would actually create something a little bit different. He came back with this. He asked Lord Windsor to dig very deep in his pockets, suggesting that this project would cost a little shy of £2 million. And this was what he came with. Back of a fag packet springs to mind, and certainly not what Lord Windsor was looking for when he was trying to think about his investment. However, the idea is one that has led us to be this year's Britain's Best Farm Shop, and certainly has led us to be what I consider to be a food destination. Funnily enough, I can read Sandy's scribble quite well. In the bottom right-hand corner it says bakery, above it says kitchen. Scribbled on the left-hand side is smoked bacon. The premise for this shop was not that it would simply sell food. The idea behind it was that it was going to be a completely different concept. And that concept was that instead of simply selling food, it would produce it. And it would produce it in a way that people could actually see, experience, understand, smell, taste, be part of the food experience. And to do that, we needed to start from scratch in a field and build something very, very special. And what you can see here is a 4,000 square foot shop with 8 production kitchens. For those of you that have been, you will have seen we have glass windows in the shop. They're great big picture windows. You can see through and you can watch them making the food that we sell. Now, as a vision, that was something that was quite difficult to swallow. How on earth can you create this thing in the middle of nowhere and expect people to come to it? It's a bit like the sort of field of dreams. If you build it, they will come type scenario. But certainly, so far, it seems to be working. The biggest differentiating factor was that if we could demonstrate to people what real food was all about, if we could try and educate them by a way of actually showing them with no walls, no clever packaging, especially not in the early days, just what went into their food, how it was produced, show them the people that made it, show them the skills that were involved in it, even show them the length of time that some of these things took, then they would get a better grip on just exactly what real food was all about. So the building. What we wanted to do was create something that was visible from the road. Certainly we've done that. It's actually based on a Georgian farm. If you Google Georgian farm buildings, you will see that they look identical to the food centre. Inside, we have mirrored that. The food hall is essentially what would have been the food area for animals. The production kitchens would have been the pens that the animals lived in, and in fact would have been let out in order to feed in the courtyard in the middle. The corridors that run behind those production kitchens would have been the way that the farmers would have got those animals then out and taken them to slaughter. And in essence, we've adopted a real farm concept for a real farm shop. And for us, that's quite an interesting thing to be able to say to people, is that this idea of a farm shop with production kitchens actually came out of something that's more than 200 years old. We have a restaurant as well. Funnily enough, that restaurant is the knackered old barn I showed you earlier. It's been rather developed since then, and in fact this year it grew from 60 covers to 140, due largely to popular demand. It has a large open kitchen, and we're hoping that in time it will become a destination in its own right. So those production kitchens that I was telling you about, I think key and paramount for us was, let's take the estate, let's work as closely as we can with the farmers on that estate, let's try and make the estate part of the destination, let's try and explain to people the provenance of the meat that they're eating, and let's go the extra mile, so to speak, in order to actually create something of a theatre with our butchery. We didn't want the grumpy old butcher, who will just sell you a sirloin steak. We actually wanted to, butcher whole carcass meat. We wanted very skilled individuals to be able to do that. But we were in the middle of nowhere. And we were very, very, very fortunate to have a guy called John Brereton join us from Chatsworth, who had his own vision for just what the best butchery, could really be. But John didn't want to adopt a bunch of butchers who had their own little quirks and bad habits. And so what he set about doing, and as you can see from the photo here, was training a lot of young people to be butchers. Now, I've heard in the short time I've been here that the future of food obviously lies with generations to come. And we have 6 apprentices in our butchery, and we believe very strongly that if we give them the skills to be able to continue the artisan trade of butchering, that we will be able to inspire their friends, their families, and hopefully the people who come and visit us and actually see them working in the butchery itself. And I've seen people looking through the windows, looking at Adam making sausages. Adam's 21, and he makes sausages faster than I've seen anybody make sausages. But he's doing everything by hand, and he does the whole process. We have a bakery, which is using as much flour as can be found from Bekeldry Mill, which is just over the border in Powys. We have some very dedicated bakers who love baking, absolutely love it. They wake up at 3 o'clock every morning to go and do it. And our baking is 7 days a week. There is no stopping. Anna and Brenda, who you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, are a mother and daughter combination. Brenda's family have lived on the estate for a good few generations now. Her husband was a farmer, and she very much wanted to be involved in the business. She also happens to make a damn good Victoria sponge. Jams and pickles. I'm going through what are our production kitchens essentially at the moment. These are the ones that you can look through the windows and see. We have a couple of guys with a brilliant story here. They worked at Tesco's before they worked at the food centre. Darren had never made a jar of jam in his life. He applied for a job at the food centre because he wanted to get off Tesco's deli, and he came to work on our deli. And we were asking our staff at that stage if anybody wanted to make jams and pickles. Darren put his hand up and was duly shown the ropes by a consultant as to how on earth he was going to go about the process of making jams and pickles. He figured out after a few weeks this was too big a job for him, and so rang his friend at the deli at Tesco's, Tess, and said, "Would you mind coming to join me? I think there's going to be an opportunity for someone to make jams and pickles with me." She came along saying, "I hate pickle," but Judy came along for the interview and decided that actually making it would probably be a lot better for her than eating it. 3 years later, they won the world's best marmalade in Cumbria at Dalmain Mansions, and for 6 years now they've been making some fantastic jams and pickles. They're actually with me this weekend. They'll be on the stand. So there are stories like this throughout the food centre. Our dairy guys 2 weeks ago won Britain's best blue cheese at the British Cheese Awards. Dudley and Paul, between them, have been making cheese for nearly 40 years, and never in that time have they won an award or gained an accolade that is quite as good as this one. I think that for me the food centre is somewhere where people can actually thrive, where they can be experimental, where they can think and plan, and certainly where they can hone and develop their skills. And that's very much what we wanted to try and show off. We really wanted to show our customers the skills involved in making what we think are brilliant foods. Our kitchen is an absolute hive of activity. 7 days a week they're making a whole massive range of foods. At the moment there's about 500 active recipes, and we're very proud of the fact that we've got some really, really good young people in there who are desperately trying to make really memorable food for people, even if it's just a steak and kidney pie. We want that steak and kidney pie to be the best that people can buy in a box. And, ready meals have got a very bad reputation, but if they're done well, there's nothing to make them better than what you can make at home. And that's certainly what we're trying to do. Strangely enough, we even roast our own coffee. It's not local, it's not seasonal particularly, but we try and make it as best as a seasonal product as we can. We work with with Macanta, who some of you may know, to source fantastic quality coffee beans. And Julie has dedicated most of her time to roasting fantastic coffees, which then go over to our restaurant, but also get sold as a retail product. So the shop. What we really wanted to create was something that people could come to and feel almost like they'd Alice in Wonderland stepped into, a different kind of world. Some people have, likened it to the biggest deli they've ever been to. Some have criticised it, saying it's nothing more than a fancy supermarket. The fact is that for us, it's a lot more than any of that, because 92 people are employed to make, serve, and be involved in the food that we do. And we want to try and get the message across as best we can through those people by using the windows, by using our serving counters, by giving out tastings. We want people to come and enjoy the process of shopping for food. And certainly I think that's been lost a lot of the time in this country. You see people desperately running around supermarkets with trolleys. They don't really care what they're buying. They're looking for buy one, get one frees. They're trying to just, get as much food in a trolley as possible to last them the week and stuff in the freezer. If you look at the people who shop at the food centre, they have a very, very different agenda altogether. As soon as they walk in, if you look at their faces, their face changes instantly. It's, wow. They're taken aback with what they're seeing, and I don't think I've ever walked into a supermarket and gone, wow. So in that sense, we're doing the right sort of things. Our deli, I think, is probably one of the places that people make the biggest beeline for. We're doing our best to try and support the producers of 80 cheeses. We are, as much as we can, trying to produce food which has got a Shropshire origin, so the fidget pie features quite well on our deli a lot of the time, and certainly has taken the eyes and ears of TV production companies and things like that. As far as sourcing goes, the food centre is pretty unique. For a shop that stocks nearly 4,000 products, 86% of those currently come from Shropshire and its surrounding counties. We're getting close to 60% now of our food actually being made by hand in our production kitchens. Our sourcing, as you can see, whether it be salad leaves from our own walled garden or vegetables from local suppliers in Herefordshire, Worcestershire, Shropshire, etc., is all about provenance. It's all about relationships, and it's certainly all about trying to create a feeling that people are getting something fresher, something that's local, something that's seasonal, and certainly something that is different to what they can find elsewhere. Our brand, that's my part of the story. It's strange to think of a food shop having a strong brand, but certainly for me it's not the logo, it's the ethos and the ethics behind it. We very much want to try and inform people about what we're doing. We're very active in the press, and certainly, there's been a fair amount of interest in us from a TV point of view. Again, reinforcing the fact that they don't just see us as a shop. The interesting thing that I had a few years ago was, and I'm sure some of you will have had this same problem, we had a lot of customers saying to us, signage. We can't find you, we always drive past you, we don't know where the turning is. And signage, I've spoken to so many farm shop owners that have this big problem. And I went to the Highways Agency and said, can I have some brown tourism signs, please? And they said no. So I went back to them and I said, can I have some brown tourism signs, please? And they said, why? I said, well, because I consider us to be a tourist attraction and a destination for people who are interested in food. They said, well, you're no different to Tesco's. Well, that got me right up. I thought, well, okay, you're going to have to listen a little bit more to what I have to say here. I wrote them a very long email. I filled in all of their forms. I went to the council. I barracked the council for about 2 months. I eventually got my application signed off by the council. It went to the Highways. I spoke to the woman who was in charge of the A49 as a trunk. They call them trunk roads. Don't know why. And she said, well, we're very sorry, but you're just a shop. We don't treat shops as tourist attractions. I said, okay. What if I said we're a food producer? She said, well, I don't know any food producers that are tourist attractions. I said, what about restaurants? And she said, yeah, but you're not a restaurant. I said, well, we have a cafe. She said, well, we could probably sign your cafe. I said, so you're willing to sign our cafe, but you're not going to sign the 4,000 square foot award-winning food producer and retailer? She said, well, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. So they happened to be in the area checking out the piece of the A49 outside our front gates, and I beckoned them in and said, look, please, can I just talk you through what we're doing here? And as we walked into the food centre, I immediately looked left at the dairy where there was a guy with his kid. He was holding his kid up, showing him just what was happening in the dairy. And I walked them over, and just as we walked over, you could overhear the conversation between father and son. And he was saying to his son, look, son, look what they're doing. They're making butter there. That's cheese, look. And there's the milk. Can you see it? You see it moving around? And the kid was like, wow, Dad, that's amazing. And the kid just didn't, had never seen this before in his life. And I turned to, the person from the highways and I said, right, show me a Tesco's that can do that. And she looked back and she said, right, okay, well, you're going to have to change the information in your leaflet. I said, you care about my leaflet? Are you not really taking in what's going on here at all? And she said, no, well, if you just change some of the information in your leaflet to make you sound less like a shop, we can probably consider you for it. So I said, you want me to change a couple of paragraphs in a leaflet and then you'll give me a sign? She said, yeah, pretty much. So I changed a couple of paragraphs in the leaflet, I sent her a proof, and about 6 weeks later they were putting in brown signs on the A49 that said Ludlow Food Centre. Now, that's bureaucracy gone mad as far as I'm concerned, but we got our brown signs, and that was the first time that a government authority recognised what we were. We were a destination, a proper food destination. And we were there for people to visit, for people to enjoy, for people to write TripAdvisor reviews about, and for people to consider a sort of tourism destination. Obviously, we do the usual. We're advertising. We're trying as best we can to be out there championing what we do as food producers, and we're at events like this one. So, for us getting out and about and trying to spread the word is an important thing, but we've started to do a lot more events physically at the food centre. I'm very involved with the schools, with the college, and with other groups who come. We now have about 50 coach tours who come each year, who I do a talk and a tasting for, because I believe that, they should really understand what they're coming to visit, not just wander around, use a loo, have a cup of tea and go. And that certainly, opens, a good 2,000 people's minds to the idea of real food each year. The schools are just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. We had a group from, I'll never forget, from Worcester College who were told to dress up well because they were going to one of the country house hotels for lunch. And these are teenagers at sort of 17, 18. And they only had two types of clothes, scruffy and going out. So the girls all came in miniskirts and pink tops and high heels, 5 inches high, and the lads all sort of came in suits. And of course they're coming to a farm shop first. So I had to parade them around the food centre, showing them all of this food production. I've got the butcher's eyes popping out because the girls have all got these miniskirts on. I've got the rest of the people shopping in the food centre wondering what on earth is going on and where this circus has come from. But the great thing is that there was a girl who was pretty squeamish, and I said, well, come into the butchery. And she said, oh, no, I don't want to go in the butchery. And her friend kind of pushed her through the doors of the butchery, and she got trotted in on these great big heels, and she was face to face with a pig. And she just cried. She just stood there and cried her eyes out. And one of her friends said, oh my God, don't you know it's her birthday? Oh God, I felt pretty terrible. But the great thing is that after all the commotion, I'd done a talk to them and I'd even done her a little birthday cake. Afterwards, she came and saw me and she said, I'm actually quite glad I saw that because now I'll probably start eating pork. I said, what, you say you don't eat pork? She said, no, I'm a vegetarian. I said, so what? Just coming face to face with a pig has suddenly made you want to eat pork? But this is it. This is the level that some teenagers are at. They just have never experienced food before. And for her to actually see and hear and understand the process of what made that pig into a sausage made her think that she might want to eat meat again. So finally, what's been said, a couple of funny comments here. We've got a farm shop on steroids from the lovely Hairy Bikers, which was a few years ago. I'm not sure how much I like that, but actually over the years it's grown on me. We are not your average farm shop, and certainly they appreciated that. Xanthi Clay came up last year, wrote a lovely feature about us in the Telegraph, but for her it was the concept. She was writing about what makes a farm shop essentially, and she saw us as being the next generation in farm shops. Something that isn't just a place to go and buy food, but for her, she was absolutely amazed with the variety and certainly the theatre of what was going on. We're not stopping yet. The food centre and the estate are the start of things yet to come. We were joined by a lovely lady who's started a plant centre, which has been built next to the food centre. We have an opportunity for 3 more shops on our site. Opposite, we've opened a riverside picnic area for the first time this year. We did an event, our Festival of the Gloucester Old Spot Pig, which went down very, very well. And certainly as the years go by, there's quite a few more things to come. As far as we're concerned, we're trying to make our estate a foodie destination. We're very privileged to have the Magna Longa, which is an Italian concept, which runs from Ludlow through our estate each year, and sees nearly 1,000 people eating a variety of courses as they wander a 6-mile course. So the more that we can do to help Ludlow as a town be a food destination, the more that we can do to essentially help ourselves become more of a food destination than we are, is certainly our number one priority. That's me pretty much done. I'm quite happy to take questions about what we do or how we've been growing.
I think we might do that over some wine.
Yeah, of course.
Tom, thank you very much.